A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Dr. Poonam Rani, Tutor Department of Physiology, and today we will be extending our talk on pancreatic secretion. In the last class, we have dealt about the structure of exocrine pancreas, its histology and secretory apparatus, nerve supply, and the composition, volume, pH of pancreatic secretion. And about the functions of pancreatic secretion. You must have studied all this in these 2 days, but I don't think that many of you have attended the class. What you have done have given the attendance only. This attitude will be harmful to all of you. So please study the syllabus. Go through it heartedly. Okay? In today's class, what are we going to study? We are going to study about the factors affecting the pancreatic secretion and its regulation, and in the last about the applied physiology. So coming to the factors affecting pancreatic secretion, there are two factors, basically the hormonal factors and the neural factors. Neural factors, you have studied that the pancreas have two types of nervous supply, the sympathetic supply and the parasympathetic supply. Sympathetic supply is via the vagus. Vagus supply leads to increase in enzyme rich pancreatic juice secretion, which has a consistency of glycerine. Stimulation of vagus leads to the release of enzymes from the zymogen granules. So within few minutes of ingestion of food, there is an increase in pancreatic juice secretion, and this secretion lasts for about 6 to 14 hours depending on the composition of food, and peak secretion occurs during the first, second and third hour. Okay. Enzyme composition of juice changes with the character of food. Therefore, amount of lipase increases if the diet is rich in fat, and the quantity of amylase increases if your diet is carbohydrate rich, and the trypsin content increases if the diet is protein rich. So you can see how the pancreatic juice varies itself according to the type of food you eat. But if you give atropine or the vagus is cut, then what will happen? What will happen? The pancreatic secretion will decrease along with the decreased content of the enzymatic portion. Okay, and the sympathetic supply, leads to decrease in the pancreatic secretion. Now coming to hormonal factors. Hormonal factor, what does it mean? Means some hormones are secreted by the GIT from the intestine or from the stomach, which have different types of effect on the pancreatic secretion. You have seen the effect of food on the pancreatic secretion. Now we will also observe how the different hormones released from the GIT have effect on the pancreatic secretion. Basically, two hormones are involved, that is secretin and cholecystokinin pancreozymin. These two hormones have major effect on the pancreatic secretion. Secretin and cholecystokinin pancreozymin. Cholecystokinin has two receptors, CCK-A and CCK-B receptors. Gastrin acts through CCK-B receptor. Other is secretin, gastrin, GRP, GIP, VIP, etc. In the picture, you can see how these hormones are having these effects. See, GRP, acetylcholine, gastrin, CCK act via the calcium. These increase the calcium in the cells, and finally there is increased enzyme synthesis and secretion. While VIP and secretin act via increase in cyclic AMP. Okay, cholecystokinin, gastrin, acetylcholine, and GRP act via increase in calcium levels in the cell, acinar cell, while VIP and secretin act via increase in cyclic AMP levels. Now, some discussion on cholecystokinin. Cholecystokinin is secreted from eye cells located in upper and small intestine. It has two receptors, CCK-A and CCK-B. CCK-A receptors are mainly located in the peripheral structures, while CCK-B receptors are present in central structures. CCK acting on both receptors activate membrane phospholipase C and stimulates production of intracellular IP3 inositol phosphate and DAG. IP3 and DAG increase cytosolic calcium concentration. And finally, CCK increases pancreatic secretion rich in enzymes. Now coming to secretin. Secretin is secreted from S cell. CCK was secreted from I cells, and secretin is secreted from S cells, and that also from the upper small intestine in response to acidic chyme. It acts on adenylate cyclase on the cell membrane and increases cytosolic formation of cyclic AMP. Now, secretin, as you saw, CCK increases the enzyme concentration of the pancreatic secretion, while secretin increases the secretion, but this is rich in bicarbonate and water. Okay. Now coming to regulation of pancreatic secretion. Pancreatic secretion is regulated in three phases: cephalic phase, gastric phase, and intestinal phase. Okay. What is cephalic phase? Cephalic phase is the stage in which you think of the food, and then the food you just take in the mouth, means the food is still in your mouth and esophagus. Okay. The cephalic phase is induced by smell, sight, thought, and taste of food, and by chewing and swallowing of food. Cephalic phase is mediated by vagus nerve. The efferent impulses originating from brain directly stimulate pancreatic secretion. The fibers mediating this response are cholinergic vagal fibers. Also, what happens? Gastrin is released from the stomach in response to vagal stimulation, which also help in increasing the pancreatic secretion. The pancreatic secretion in the cephalic phase is rich in enzyme. Cephalic phase contributes to about 15 to 30% of pancreatic system secretion. Okay. Now what happens? When the food enters the stomach, gastric phase of the gastric phase is initiated. Distension of the stomach elicits vasovagal reflex that stimulates pancreatic secretion. Initially in the cephalic phase, it was the stimulation of the vagus nerve. Now here, along with the vagus, there is also other distension of the stomach. This distension of the stomach elicits vagovagal reflex that stimulates pancreatic secretion. Presence of amino acids and peptides in the gastric content stimulate gastrin release from the stomach that in turn stimulate pancreatic secretion. Gastric phase has greater effect on enzyme secretion and it contributes about 40% of the secretion in this phase. Okay. Now here the presence of amino acids and peptides are mainly responsible for the secretion. Okay. And amino acids and peptides, what they do? They stimulate the release of gastrin. Gastrin has also an influence on the pancreatic secretion. How gastrin is working? Gastrin is working via increasing the cytosolic content of the calcium. Okay. Now the last one is the intestinal phase. When the chyme enters the duodenum, intestinal phase starts. Acidic chyme increases release of secretin from S cells present in the mucosa of upper part of the small intestine. Secretin stimulates pancreatic juice rich in aqueous component. Aqueous component means water and bicarbonate. The presence of products of protein digestion like amino acids and peptides and the products of fat digestion like fatty acids and monoglycerides in chyme evoke pancreatic secretion rich in enzymes which is mediated by CCK secreted from eye cells in intestinal mucosa. You see, acidic chyme leads to increase in the secretion of secretin while the products of digestion increase the secretion of CCK. CCK potentiate the effect of secretin on ducts and secretin potentiate the effect of CCK on acinar cell. The vagovagal reflex also mediates pancreatic secretion during gastric and intestinal phase. Intestinal phase contributes to 40 to 60% of pancreatic secretion. Okay. In a nutshell, you can see the cephalic phase, gastric phase, and intestinal phase. Stimuli responsible for cephalic phase are sight, smell, thought, taste of food, chewing and swallowing of food. Mechanism is vagal stimulation and the effect is increase in secretion containing more enzymes. While in the gastric phase, the gastric digestion and product of protein digestion acts as the stimuli and the mechanism is vagovagal reflex and gastrin. Increased secretion contains more enzymes. Okay. In the intestinal phase, acidic chyme in the duodenum, fatty acids and amino acids all are the stimuli and they act via CCK, secretin, CCK and vagovagal reflex. In this, the increased secretion is containing more bicarbonate and water and enzymes too. Okay, secretin is increasing the secretion containing more bicarbonate and water, while CCK and vagovagal reflex is responsible for increasing the secretion containing more enzymes. Now you can see the flow chart. What happens in the cephalic phase? You have the stimuli as sight, smell and taste of food. Chewing, swallowing leads to vagal stimulation, and finally there is pancreatic secretion rich in enzyme. In the gastric phase, there are peptides and amino acids which act on the G cells and leading to increase in gastrin secretion. Along with this, there is gastric distension leading to vagovagal reflex, and these two are responsible for increase in pancreatic secretion rich in enzymes. In the intestinal phase, acidic chyme in the duodenum increases the secretin secretion via the S cells, which lead to increased pancreatic secretion rich in bicarbonate and water, and finally there is neutralization of acid. So you can see all these are responsible for increasing the pancreatic secretion. Now in the last, coming to the applied physiology, what we have to learn is acute pancreatitis, chronic pancreatitis, and cystic fibrosis. In the cystic fibrosis, you have learned in the last class what happens. There is mutation in the CFTR gene, and CFTR gene leads to distorted chloride secretion, and this distorted chloride secretion leads to thickening of the pancreatic secretion. Along with the pancreatic MAD secretion, there is increased secretion in the lung tissue also. So, in the cystic fibrosis, both the pancreas and the lungs are involved. Now, what is acute pancreatitis? Pancreatitis is characterized by severe pain in the epigastric or periumbilical region that radiates to the back. The physiological alteration in the disease is activation of trypsin. What happens? Trypsin is activated in the pancreatic tissue itself. Why? Because there is decreased secretion of trypsin inhibitor. Okay. So what will happen if there is decreased secretion of pancreatic inhibitor? There will be activation of trypsin inside the pancreatic tissue with itself, and it will lead to autodigestion of the gland. Trypsin also activates phospholipase A2, which forms lysolecithin from fatty acids of lecithin. Lysolecithin damages pancreatic tissue and produces necrosis of surrounding fat. In severe case, hemorrhage occurs into abdominal cavity. This is known as hemorrhagic pancreatitis. Why this happens? The common cause of acute pancreatitis are gallstone causing obstruction of the sphincter of Oddi, chronic alcoholism, hypertriglyceridemia, blunt abdominal trauma, and drugs like azathioprine, sulfonamide, tetracycline, valproic acid, etc. How do you diagnose this acute pancreatitis? Basically, it is the typical presentation of abdominal pain associated with increased plasma level of serum amylase. What is the treatment? Treatment is basically conservative. Conservative means you don't have to do any surgery. Instead, it is managed medically. That is with IV fluids, nil orally, analgesic, antibiotics, and nasogastric suction. In severe cases, especially in hemorrhagic form, abdomen is open and the blood is collected from abdominal cavity of the patient and filtered. Abdomen is thoroughly washed, bleeding points are closed, and the filtered blood is transfused to the patient itself. This is known as autotransfusion. Means your blood is transfused to you, you itself. Okay. Now coming to chronic pancreatitis, it may be due to improper recovery from pancreatitis or persistence of low-grade acute pancreatitis. Patient developed steatorrhea due to pancreatic lipase deficiency and malnutrition due to indigestion and malabsorption of various nutrients. Patient may develop diabetes mellitus due to associated endocrine deficiency. Now the cystic fibrosis, as I have told you, that cystic fibrosis is a disease due to mutation in the CFTR gene. This is an autosomal recessive monogenic disorder in which the major defect is in the chloride channel. Lung is the most common organ affected, and decreased nasociliary clearance is the common pathology. Respiratory features are chronic sinusitis, nasal obstruction, rhinorrhea, and cough with expectoration of viscous purulent sputum. Common gastrointestinal features are intestinal obstruction and exocrine pancreatic deficiency. One more thing I will tell you in this applied portion is when there is total removal of pancreas. Total removal of pancreas, what will happen? First thing, there will be diabetes mellitus. Why? Because you have removed the endocrine hormone, endocrine portion of the pancreas also. That is islets of Langerhans, which leads to secretion of the insulin. So when you remove the pancreas in total, diabetes mellitus occurs due to pancreatic endocrine deficiency of insulin, and also there will be steatorrhea. Why steatorrhea? And other digestive features, indigestive features. Steatorrhea is because you are not able to secrete lipase. Fecal nitrogen content increases, and usually there is no abnormality of carbohydrate digestion because carbohydrates are also digested from other organs, secreting as amylase from the salivary gland. There is also secretion of carbohydrate amylase from the stomach and intestine. So basically there is deficiency of absorption of fat and amino acids. Now the last part, coming to the last part, that is pancreatic function test. Why do we do function test? What this function test tells? Pancreatic function test. These function tests we do to assess the working condition of the pancreas or any organ of which we are doing the function test. Pancreatic function test is of two types, invasive and non-invasive. Invasive tests are of two types. First type uses stimulation of pancreatic secretion by meals, and the second one is assessing the pancreatic secretion by injecting hormones. In the first time, what we do, we feed the patient by meals, feed the patient meals, and then we assess the secretion by taking the samples. What are the tests involved in pancreatic secretion? By stimulation of pancreatic test by meals? What are those? That is Lund test. What is Lund test? This test relies on the assessment of trypsin activity in pancreatic juice collected following duodenal intubation. This is an indirect there is an indirect stimulation of pancreas, and in which you give a meal to the patient rich in amino acids. When you give the food rich in amino acid, there will be increase in trypsin activity, and this trypsin activity will be assessed by taking the sample from the duodenum, in which you see the presence of increased trypsin activity. And if you see that there is increased trypsin activity, you assess that there is the presence of pancreatic exocrine function is normal. How, when you say that the function is normal? When the trypsin activity is more than or less than 6 international unit per liter. If the trypsin activity is less than 6 international unit per liter, then you think that there is pancreatic insufficiency. Okay, this is how you assess the Lund test. Now in the second type of test is by injecting the hormones intravenously. These are secretin stimulation test and CCK stimulation test. How you do this? Secretin is injected IV at a dose of 1 unit per kg, and then the duodenal samples are collected for 80 minutes. It increases rate of formation and flow, and aqueous component of pancreatic juice. In CCK stimulation test, CCK is injected IV, and after that you collect the samples from the duodenum, and in that you can see that enzymatic component of pancreatic secretion is increased. Other are non-invasive tests. Non-invasive tests are of three types. In the first type includes estimation in a stool for food particles that are not absorbed, like fecal estimation of fat and fecal enzymes trypsin, chymotrypsin, and elastase. In the second type includes estimation in blood, urine, and breath for products of digested food due to action of pancreatic that are absorbed in systemic circulation. In the third type includes estimation in plasma or blood for hormones, that is Schilling's test, and enzymes, amino acids, etc. Now coming to fecal estimation of fat. Normally about 5 gram of fat is excreted per day in the feces. In pancreatic deficiency, what will happen? There will be more than 20 gram of fat. In severe deficiency, fat excretion may be more than 50 gram. Fecal estimation of nitrogen. About 7 gram of nitrogen is excreted in a stool per day in a healthy individual. In pancreatic deficiency, due to decreased proteolytic enzyme activity, nitrogen excretion increases in stool. D-xylose absorption test. A pentose sugar called xylose is administered 25 gram usually, and its recovery in urine is measured over next 5 hours and in blood in next 2 hours. This is a test that distinguishes between malabsorption due to pancreatic and jejunal insufficiency. It also helps evaluate response to therapy. Now, Schilling's test. It is done to assess the absorption of vitamin B12, which requires intrinsic factor. Vitamin B12 deficiency is seen in chronic pancreatitis because trypsin helps in binding B12 to intrinsic factor, after which the complex is reabsorbed. Serum amylase estimation. Normal levels of serum amylase is 60 to 120 units per liter. In acute pancreatitis, serum amylase concentration becomes very high. This differentiates pancreatitis from other conditions of acute abdomen. Cholangiopancreatography. This is a special radiodiagnostic investigation in which the details of contour of hepatopancreatic duct system are visualized by introducing an endoscope. The process is called endoscopic retrograde cholangiopancreatography, or ERCP. This is the most accurate test for assessing pancreatic structure and function. So, thank you. I have given a roadmap to learn the pancreas and its functions, its control of secretion. So, guys, please do study. Study, study, study. Okay? Thank you.